Rate hikes incoming. Could it be huge? Today we'll break it all down for you. We're going to have a trader on. You don't want to miss it. I want to thank our sponsor today, and of course that is Uphold. If you are holding crypto right now and not earning rewards, you're essentially leaving money on the table. And the reality is, in today's market, you need to be able to move instantly. That's why Uphold's flexible staking is such a game changer. You can earn weekly rewards automatically on assets you already hold without a lockup. That's most important. You can sell anytime. It's the perfect setup for anyone who wants to grow their holdings without losing their exit strategy. Download the Uphold app today and try it for yourself. Let's get started. I want to lead off here with a Tom Lee clip where he breaks down this three-phase market because we are seeing the S&P skyrocket. Take a look.
You're calling for a three-phase market still. Explain to our viewers again what that means.
Is we'd rally towards 7,300 initially. Now we're above that, but I think
we're almost 76.
Yeah, and I think we can get to maybe 77, as high as 77. But I think then we're going to digest a lot of things until October, and that's a new Fed chair. It's the energy shock, and the third is the IPOs of SpaceX, OpenAI, and Anthropic, that when the unlocks happen, that's a lot of extra supply. So I think that could pressure stocks in a way that feels like a bear market.
All right, so very interesting statements there in terms of this three-phase. Timing is going to be very similar. He also talked a little bit about that we are going to see essentially a face melter in 2027. I'm going to break this down with Evan Aldo. We're actually going to talk about all of those. So, Evan, how are you, man?
I'm doing fantastic, Paul. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, nice to see you. Hey, we got a potential here. Fed rate hikes in 2026. It is rising. We are setting at right at 32% right now before Kevin Warsh does his first FOMC meeting, if in fact we have FOMC meetings anymore. Who knows what's going to happen at the Fed. But what's your position right now? Do you feel like we're going to see the hike, or do you feel we'll see a pause?
You know, I have the more optimistic path. When I look at the charts, it looks like yields are going to head down. I think it's highly unlikely you're going to see a hike. I think the moment you get a 5% pullback from the S&P 500, that's going to kind of end any speculation of a hike. I also think Iran is obviously coming to a close. I think that's going to end any speculation of a hike. It's probably going to be a long pause. Maybe, just maybe, you could get a cut before midterms. I wouldn't even rule that out. So yeah.
Interesting, a cut before midterms. Evan Aldo.
Maybe if the S&P 500 comes down a little bit, but maybe I'm being
Justin, well, that's kind of like what Tom was talking about, is that we could see a bump in up to July, then a bit of a step back in the S&P, and then after midterms, a run on this three-phase. Of course, one of the key things that would have to happen here is the Iranian deal. You've got now Trump announcing a proposed term on the U.S.-Iranian deal. A few key things in here. They're talking about the mines. They're talking about coordinating mine removal, enriched uranium. All of this has to be destroyed, and of course, by the U.S. and China now in on this, so that's new. Then, of course, you have Iran coming and firing back, according to BRICS News, saying, no, it's just, this is what he wants, but it's not reality, which is going to be interesting. I think at some point there's got to be an off-ramp here. All of this is going to get a little bit crazy. And then, of course, you've got situations right now with Trump made so much fun of Obama giving Iranians cash. And, of course, this was talking about the proposed peace deal right now with $300 billion reconstruction fund going in. So I don't know, man. This is getting crazy in terms of how this plays out. Do you think we get out of Iran before, let's say, July? That's in the next 30 days.
You know, it's tough to say. I mean, I think that may be a little bit too soon, but I'd say before the end of August could be a good goal. I think, you're going to see more negotiations. Price gets factored in quickly. So I would say very likely within 2 months. I would say that question you asked is probably a 50-50. That's tough. 50, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I think it's going to be a little bit longer unless something really changes in terms of the Iranians' mindset on how they want to exit this. And of course, this is all about winning too for Trump. Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, we've started to see an issue around Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, of course, did a little bit of a bump here. It erased some losses, reclaimed 74. At the same time that this announcement was going on, we'll probably see this go another bounce down and bounce up again, as a lot of this seems to be correlated to both energy and what's happening in Iran. When you chart this right now, in the near term, if you gave me a price target for Bitcoin into July, so here we are, end of May, all of June, where am I at in July?
So I would stay a bit more on the bear side for now. As long as we stay kind of below 78, 79K, I would lean more towards the bear side. If you look at where your money flow is going right here, generally downward on your 2-week, and that's generally a bearish pattern. Everything's kind of coming down. You're losing momentum right here. Same thing on the weekly. This looks pretty bad as well. You're coming down with money flow. And I think this is going to look like how a lot of bear markets have looked, where this is your weekly 200 SMA. So, and it's cool that you asked about July because, you know, it's looking like something like this, maybe mid 60s for some type of double bottom. And every single bear market, we bottomed around this kind of area. So yeah, I think that you may come up a little bit in the short term, but I think you're generally, as of right now, as long as you stay below these levels, like 77, 78, you're probably more in a bear trend, in my opinion, for the next month only. Next month, 2 months, you know, the summer, that area.
All right, so bear trend on Bitcoin. One thing that could really start to spiral this down is an actual rate hike. I want to go to a clip here because there is some arguments out there and some analysis that maybe it's bigger than what people are expecting. Take a look.
Why at least 100 basis points?
Because if you look at core inflation from where it was before we attacked Iran, it's going to be up at least 100 basis points. So in simple, basic math, your real interest rate has collapsed 100. You'd want to offset that by raising the funds rate at least by that amount.
How urgent is your call for at least 100 basis points? In other words, if the Fed stands pat, which it might very well do for the next couple of meetings, is that going to be a policy mistake looking in the rearview mirror?
Maybe. It's hard to say because at some point you could make the argument that Kevin Warsh is going to make, which I understand, which is this, we're going to increase the supply side of the economy, shift that aggregate supply curve down and to the right. That will increase growth and lower inflation. That's a legitimate forecast. They could wait in the short term because market-based expectations, inflation expectations are contained, and you haven't seen an acceleration in wage growth. But Melissa, if either of those two developments change, there's going to be tremendous pressure on the Fed to hike as soon as September. I think Kevin Warsh will do a very good job and will push back against it. But if the economy is growing reasonably well and inflation is moving further away from target, why wouldn't you be hiking?
Okay, so I'm going to go on record. I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to pull the trigger. Even though U.S. inflation is running hot, you look at all the numbers, I get it. Everybody says this all the time. But in reality, I think it's still a price to measure situation. And when you consider that and potentially all of the macro environments loosening up, it is primarily going to be energy. This could change things a little bit. And of course, I guess the question right now, if we got a 100 basis point rate hike, where would you put Bitcoin?
Oh man, I mean, that's, first of all, I think it's so highly unlikely you would get a 100 base, rate hike. I think the price is already starting to factor in maybe one rate hike with all this fear, I mean, 100 basis points, that would be a nightmare, probably somewhere in the 50s, I don't know, high 40s, but that's not going to happen. Highly unlikely.
All right, there you go. I like it. I'm on your side. I don't think it's going to happen at all. Another person I'm on the side of is Clarity, but at the same time, we're looking at some, I would say a little bit more pressure of getting it through. Next window for digital asset legislation after Congress is 2030. Until then, developers remain exposed, no legal protection. I don't know. Maybe this is just a little bit of, grandstanding to a certain extent. But I think with what Lummis is trying to do. Do you think, what's your percentage on Clarity right now?
I think 60-40, 65, right, 35. Yeah, I think it's a good bet. I think in all likelihood, though, they should be able to do it. I don't see why they can't. I mean,
there's so many things that are sticking points. I think the concern right now, at least I have, is going to be ethics, whether they will get it, get the Republicans in a position where they'll, at least reposition on ethics. The other thing that could actually be an interesting is CBDCs of how that plays out. Because of course, Besson is all out there. We're not going to have it. We're going to get this through. And you have Besson out there and Patrick Witt both really pushing hard to try to get this through. Maybe get it across the line or something else is out there for sure. Let's jump over to Ethereum. Joseph Shalom, we had him on the show not too long ago, and this gets into some of the DATs, and it's a clip on him talking about the burn thesis, and then I want to ask you where the ETH chart flows if this happens. Take a look.
What is the thesis for ETH, the asset, and why is Ethereum not ETH? Why is that the incorrect take here?
Yeah, I think it's the former, but we generally believe we're going to see step function increases from stablecoins, tokenization, and agentic that will create that demand that will trigger the burn. And when that happens, and you start seeing 10x, 20x, 50x or more transactions on Ethereum and the L2s, you're going to end up needing Ether as that trustware to secure the transaction.
All right, so he is very bullish for obvious reasons. One of the largest stats out there he's in charge of. He's in alignment with Tom Lee, with what BM&R is doing. You look at that and where ETH is right now, which is struggling. Would you consider this, if the thesis plays out, do you think we would see that kind of all-time high run-up here on Ethereum?
There's a case to be made for it. There's definitely a case to be made for it. The thing is, though, right now it does. You're at such a big decision point right here, right around 2000. Your 2 week looks really bad. However, sometimes you get lucky with this. If you look right here where we went into the red for the money flow, lost momentum, it was actually a nice bottom in September of 2023. So there's that. That's the kind of Hail Mary right there. If I had to guess here, you're kind of losing this point. Like it's not looking that great at the moment, potentially dropping down to 1600. These kind of areas, maybe there's some hope at 1900. There was a lot of capitulations. So, I think if you could hold these lows, get some more momentum there on some of, these indicators, and kind of hold these areas and break back above 2100, I would get much more optimistic and potentially get a position in Ethereum. Right now, I'm just solely kind of mainly in Bitcoin right now. But when you look at ETH versus Bitcoin as well, we did with this was where the capitulation happened, I believe, the other day. A lot of people capitulated. You get a nice jump up on your 2 day. So I think it's early, but if you were to hold kind of this area and show some more momentum, and the thing I want to see on this is breaking back above the lows from February, because it's not good that we lost these lows from February right here. These areas, we didn't want to lose this. We want to see us reclaim this and hold this, and then I'd be much more open to that, that trajectory of getting to the new all-time high and ETH outperforming Bitcoin. But until then, I think you want to be very cautious on Ethereum. Last thing I'll say quickly is this weekly. This is what I'm looking at. This to go from red to green. This is a big momentum shift that could potentially happen sometime later summer, and I think that could be a potentially really good buy for ETH and Bitmine.
All right, so Evan, when did you become so bearish on ETH? Because you've been bullish on ETH almost the entire year. Did you just flip this? Was it David Hoffman that did it for you? Was it the bankless
The
coins?
main thing, yeah, it's a great question, Paul. The main thing is just losing momentum here. So, I'm a more of a moment, just losing this low. I was bullish and I got into ETH over here and we went up and then we went back down. I kind of round tripped it and I got out at these areas kind of at the break even point against my Bitcoin holdings. So I just don't want to hold, I don't want to hold it if it's just going to keep bleeding, against Bitcoin. But I'll gladly get back in if you reclaim these areas and show more momentum. That's kind of my main strategy as a macro allocation swing trader. Yeah.
Let's jump over to a big IPO coming up. SpaceX now targeting a valuation of $1.8 trillion in its IPO, according to people out there talking about this. So maybe it hits it or not. What amazed me was the fact that they did this right here. They waived the profitability rule for SpaceX to basically go for indices now, to be able to go into ETFs, other funds out there. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. What happens when SpaceX launches and we do see a run up on this? Would you invest in SpaceX right now, the way it's looking?
The thing with a lot of these IPOs is they're fun in the beginning because you always get a run up when it first kind of goes public. So yeah, usually you can get a little run up, and then a lot of the people that have been holding, accredited investors that have been holding for many years, they dump it. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but a lot of times you see this happen, then you see like a 6 to 12 month bear market, 6 to 8 month bear market. So I think if I had to guess, again, this is just speculation, if I had to guess, the real good time to buy SpaceX will probably be early next year or later this year. That's where I think would be a golden
down
opportunity.
past the IPO entry. Let's go to a clip real quick, because this is talking about how this pump for SpaceX might be deliberate. Take a look.
The interesting nuance with regards to SpaceX is not that it's going to sell off post-IPO if we are expecting that as our base case. It's the fact that Tesla-SpaceX merger is starting to become priced in because of the ownership stake. And I know Elon's targets of wanting to have over 20 to 25% ownership in Tesla to be able to influence the direction that the company goes. I think he controls like 80% of the voting power in SpaceX. The pumping of SpaceX to $2 trillion valuation, I think, is deliberate so that they can have leverage to do the merger of equals. At this point, SpaceX is even bigger than Tesla, which would thereby give Elon even more control. Otherwise, Elon will try to rush through as quickly as possible after IPO so as to capitalize on that momentum. Because if you have a big fade out of the stock, he loses some of that leverage. And so it behooves him to be as quick as possible so that SpaceX maintains a higher market cap than Tesla, maintains the negotiating leverage there, and ultimately Elon will have more control when they do merge. So I think it's going to be IPO immediately leading into merger conversations or rumors shortly thereafter, days, not months.
I'm in agreement. I think they will merge. I don't know if it'll be that fast, but if it is, I mean, that would be, wow. Would you be owning Tesla right now in that kind of condition?
Yeah, Tesla's interesting, and I think it could be somewhat attractive. The first thing I'll say about this is, I mean, inevitably this is going to hit 600 and then probably eventually 900, by the end of this decade. If you can hold this, you'll get a good return. I think that's highly, highly likely. You'll eventually break upward. I mean, short term, sure, you could dilly-dally around, maybe come back to, 390 or something. It's hard to say. But Tesla versus, because, obviously if you're buying Tesla, you want to outperform the NASDAQ. This has been lackluster against the NASDAQ for, a while now, really since, 2020, 2021 here. I think you're hitting a pretty decent area at this point. And I think you might see a jump against your NASDAQ right now. So I think Tesla's an attractive buy as long as you kind of hold, these lows against the NASDAQ from April of this year. So I like Tesla, yeah.
Okay, there you go, liking Tesla. What would you say probability of the merger would be? Are you as confident as I am, or are you more on the...
Yeah, I mean, it probably, 70, 80, it's hard to say. But yeah, I think what you said makes sense. It'll probably merge, yeah.
Saylor tweets out, CFTC guidance advances the Bitcoin capital markets. This is talking about their 24/7 Bitcoin collateral on perp futures. This changes the game maybe for MicroStrategy in general. What about strategy right now, Evan? Is this still an investment play that you would go with, or are you looking for an entry on strategy?
I think strategy is pretty attractive right now at these prices at around 150 is pretty attractive. You definitely could come back down. Like if I had to guess here, I would probably tell you that we'd come back down to like 120 something, but I still think it's a pretty attractive buy, right around 150. Your momentum's coming up, your money flow momentum's coming up, and your 2-day right here. It could be a little premature, maybe wait a month. That would probably be a really good entry if I had to guess here. Strategy, I mean, the number one thing we're trying to do with strategy is obviously outperform Bitcoin. If you look at strategy versus Bitcoin, I think if I had to, make an estimate here, I think the bottom for strategy versus Bitcoin was February. Maybe in the next month you come back down to somewhere over here, but I think you're going to generally make higher lows on this chart as you did, all the way from 2022 to 2024. So I think you got at least a year to 2 years of, probably 2 years of strategy outperforming Bitcoin. So yeah, I think it's a good buy.
All right, there you go. Long-term hold on strategy for that one. Hyperliquid has been absolutely stellar on the charts. There's some reasons now. We saw another pump on Hyperliquid, and for this reason right here, the CFTC's actions, approval of the first U.S. listed Perps derivative contract. So this, of course, was clarified, and now we have Hyperliquid actually showing it on the chart itself. When you consider Hyperliquid right now and where it is today, I want to go to the chart real quick because I'm going to show the Gaussian trail on this to kind of show you. This is pretty much the only chart that has been in the green. If you look at, let's just go down through them. If you look at Bitcoin, not performing. Obviously, ETH, same situation. Solana, XRP, even Avalanche going into what we're talking about here in terms of performance. Hype, how long before this thing turns around, or do you think this continues to track up? I mean, after, kind of really going into the stratosphere at around $66 right now.
Yeah, there's always this saying, I'm sure you've heard, Paul, there's always a bull market somewhere. This has been the bull market as Bitcoin has gone down. I mean, it's breaking upward. Your next major target is $80. I'm not seeing any major reason to believe it's gonna, dump down, anytime soon.
Okay.
So if I had to make an estimation here, probably $80 does look likely. I do think if Bitcoin really tanks and loses 70K soon, this probably would go down too. But as of right now, it seems like you're probably going to hold 58, 57 and break upward to 80. I would get more bearish if I would say lost 56. But, right now, your momentum's still there. I don't think there's a reason to believe this is going to correct just yet. You're probably going to 80. So, yeah.
Well, and you have to remember, this has been really marketed heavily by Bitwise. Bitwise has talked about it. We've talked about it with Matt before. They're out there doing a full podcast blitz right now on it. So it's getting more exposure to institutional. And then you have all these news drops. And of course, Perps is, absolutely exploding. The real question is, does Solana get into a position where they can compete on perpetuals? That'll be the question right there. And if you just look at the hype DAT right there, it's the only one that's starting to perform right there, right now. That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
It's nuts right now. When you look at Solana, though, I want to go in on Solana. And when you look at the Solana chart and you think about all of the things that are happening with Sol right now, in terms of perpetuals especially, where would you put Solana at the end of the year right now?
Oh man, that's a great question. I mean, I think that Solana, let's map this out. So I think there's, Solana is probably going to come back to 76, in the next month, 2 months, I would guess. There's a possibility it could hold here, sure. Or maybe even scare a lot of people away, 74. But end of year, I think there's a good shot. You come down in June, July, correct a bit. End of year, I do think, September, October, $90 I would hope for, maybe even 100.
So you're pulling it back up. Okay.
Yeah, I think, it could break upward. I mean, it's hard to say. If Bitcoin goes up to like 90K, which I think it might, I could see 110, some area like that, end of year. So.
All right.
Yeah,
even with this news, I mean, you've got Kalshi launching the Perp futures now in the U.S. This is, of course, all going to be tied into Solana. This is big, don't you think?
It could go higher, yeah. I mean, it could go, well, your technical target, from a technical perspective, you would have your technical target by end of year would be, okay, 120. Yeah, I mean, looking at this some more, 120, I would say. I don't know about too much higher.
Floor. How far back does that go in terms of that sell-off that happened with Solana back in
the sell-off? Oh, from here, from Feb, yeah, that's 67. So it'd be a double from there, somewhere, something like that. You do have a trend line. I mean, it could go higher, man. I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, 130, if you're trading on fundamentals, it would give you higher numbers than technicals, I would say.
Yeah. Is there a window? Are you invested in Solana right now? Are you buying it?
Not at the moment, but I'm getting close because I want to, I have Bitcoin and I want to really have a good reason to convert my Bitcoin over to Solana. And obviously, I want to see a little bit more momentum here. Right now, it still keeps bleeding against Bitcoin. But if we can break above this area and show some more momentum against Bitcoin, have things look a lot better on the weekly here, then could definitely pick up some Solana. As of right now, I'm still waiting, but I'll get in. Don't worry.
I'll get in. Don't worry. All right, man. We're going to cover this and a lot more next week. We've got a line of new guests for you guys, so be on the lookout. A lot of new topics that I think you're going to be interested in. If you guys want to check out Evan Aldo's YouTube channel, you can do that just by searching Evan Aldo over there. Are you still daily live, or what's the flow now of content?
Most days are live. Try to go live around noon, midday. Get some viewers for the lives. Do pre-recorded videos a couple times a week as well. Market updates and then some vlogs here and there. So it's a fun channel.
I like it. Evan, thanks so much for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Always an honor, Paul. Great talking to you.
If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.